Right now, somewhere in the world, someone's getting buried. Flowers are being placed. Words are being spoken over a body that can no longer hear them. This is happening today. It happened yesterday. It will happen again tomorrow in nearly every culture on Earth.
Achoo!
It is so normal that we rarely stop and ask the strange question hiding underneath it. Why do we do this at all? Elephants have been seen standing over the bones of dead herd members, touching them gently with their trunks. Chimpanzees have carried dead infants for days, seemingly unwilling to let go. Crows gather around their dead in a way researchers now cautiously call a kind of funeral, but none of them dig a grave. None of them arrange flowers. None of them paint a body or wrap it
Achoo!
or leave a tool beside it for a journey that has not happened yet. Only humans do that.
Oh.
Every human society ever studied, separated by oceans, by thousands of years, by completely different beliefs, has developed some deliberate way of handling its dead, not just disposing of a body, ritualizing it, making meaning out of it. That is genuinely strange when you sit with it, and it is a question anthropologists have argued over for more than a century. Why does one species, alone among millions, insist on spending time, energy, and resources on something that offers zero practical benefit to the living? Think about how strange that is from a pure survival standpoint. Every hour spent digging a grave, weaving a shroud, or carving a bead is an hour not spent hunting, gathering, or resting. Evolution is usually ruthless about cutting that kind of waste, and yet this particular waste survived in every population, on every continent, for tens of thousands of years. To understand why, we have to go back to the very first burials we can actually prove happened on purpose. And that search leads somewhere surprising. At Shanidar Cave in northern Iraq, archaeologists uncovered Neanderthal remains dating back roughly 60,000 years. Around one skeleton, researchers found clusters of ancient pollen. For decades, this was described as the flower burial, a Neanderthal laid to rest with wildflowers. It is a beautiful idea. It is also contested. Some scientists argue the pollen could have been carried in by burrowing rodents, not mourners. What is not contested is that bodies at Shanidar were positioned deliberately in ways that simply do not happen by accident. Farther south at Qafzeh and Skhul caves in modern-day Israel, archaeologists found early Homo sapiens buried roughly 100,000 years ago. Some were covered in red ochre pigment. Some had deer antlers placed intentionally beside the body. And it's not decomposition. That is a decision. Then there is Sungir, in Russia, where a man and two children were buried around 34,000 years ago, laid head to head, covered in thousands of carved ivory beads that would have taken thousands of hours to make. Someone spent an enormous amount of time preparing these bodies for something. We do not know exactly what, but they clearly believed it mattered. These early graves are not just curiosities either. For societies that left no written records, a burial is often the closest thing we have to a window into how people felt about loss, status, and identity. The amount of care in a grave can tell us who a community considered worth an extraordinary investment of time. More recently, a controversial claim has shaken the field. Researchers studying Homo naledi, a small-brained relative of ours from South Africa, have argued this species may have deliberately buried its dead, hundreds of thousands of years before modern humans existed. Many scientists remain openly skeptical.
Oh,
But even the debate tells you something. The question of who first buried the dead and why is still very much alive. Once humans started dealing with death on purpose, we did not all do it the same way. Different environments, different beliefs, different available resources shaped wildly different traditions.
oh,
But zoom out far enough, and most of human history falls into roughly four approaches. Burial, placing the body into the earth, is the oldest and most widespread, found on every inhabited continent, in forms ranging from simple pits to elaborate stone tombs, with bodies sometimes curled into a resting position and sometimes laid flat and straight. Cremation goes back thousands of years, too. Bronze Age communities across Europe built entire cemeteries of cremation urns. In Hindu tradition, cremation remains central today, tied to beliefs about releasing the soul from the body. The ashes that remain might be scattered into a river, kept in an urn at home, or sold inside a monument meant to outlast the family that built it.
oh,
Excarnation takes a completely different approach, exposing the body instead of concealing it. In Tibetan sky burial, a body is offered on a mountaintop to vultures, an act rooted in Buddhist beliefs about impermanence. Zoroastrian communities historically used towers of silence for a similar reason, treating earth, fire, and water as too sacred to be touched by a corpse. Some indigenous nations of the North American plains historically practiced a related form of excarnation, raising the body on a scaffold above the ground and returning it to the sky and the elements, rather than to the earth. And then there is mummification, deliberately preserving the body instead of returning it to nature. Ancient Egypt gets all credit, but the Chinkoro people of coastal South America were mummifying their dead roughly 2,000 years before the Egyptians, using techniques of remarkable complexity for a culture with no written language. In parts of East Asia, historical records describe Buddhist monks attempting self-mummification through years of extreme diet and meditation before death, believing the process could preserve not just the body, but a state of enlightenment. Even nature got involved. Bog bodies, like Denmark's Tolen Man, were preserved almost perfectly for thousands of years by the chemistry of peat itself, low oxygen, high acidity, almost no bacteria. Whether bodies like his were placed there deliberately as part of a ritual or ended up there some other way entirely is still debated among archaeologists. Four completely different solutions. One identical problem. So why does this happen everywhere, every time? Regardless of religion, geography, or technology, psychologists Jeff Greenberg, Sheldon Solomon, and Tom Pieszczynski developed a framework called terror management theory. It builds on philosopher Ernest Becker's argument that human beings are unique in fully understanding that we will die. That awareness, they argue, is frightening enough that entire cultures, religions, and rituals exist partly to manage it, to make death feel less like an ending and more like a transition. In later experiments built on this theory, researchers found that simply reminding people of their own mortality tended to make them cling more tightly to their cultural beliefs and moral values. almost as if reasserting those beliefs helped push the fear back down. Some researchers theorize this required a very specific cognitive leap,
Oh.
a level of self-awareness that let early humans imagine their own death before it happened, not just react to death after the fact. That is a genuinely rare ability in the animal kingdom. There is a social explanation, too. Reef rituals give a community a shared, structured way to process loss together instead of falling apart around it. A funeral is not only for the person who died. It is for everyone left standing afterward, a way of saying, out loud and together, that the group continues even when one member does not. And grave goods, the beads, the tools, the food left beside a body, suggests something even bigger, belief, a belief that identity does not simply stop at death. That belief, whatever shape it takes, appears to be almost as old as humanity itself. Maybe that is the real answer. We do not bury our dead because a body left out in the open is a problem to solve. We bury our dead because letting go of a person completely, all at once, with nothing marking that they ever existed, has never felt like enough. It still does not.